Okay, well, I'm Neil and this is Dylan.
Dylan.
You can see here. And so this is a workshop on, as you probably know, trust and trust in free schools and basically that. So we're just going to talk about trust. And we're going to, first of all, we're just going to talk a little about how we think trust has affected us and how we think it's important.
Like a lot of the time when our experience in free schools, it seems like a lot of the times the parents and like just getting people to be involved in the free school.
How many people here are familiar with free schools?
Oh yeah, how many people? I'll ask that.
Yeah. Okay, well that's good. Well, for those who don't know, it's more it can be a democratic school. It can be basically an alternative school that gives more freedom to children. We go to a Sudbury school where the basic concept is it's all governed by a school meeting, and the school meeting is they make all the rules.
They're the governing body.
The governing body of the school, legally too. So they are the governing body of the school. And so we go there, and trust is very important there. And our biggest problem
So our biggest problem is like probably trust between the parent and the child.
And the school.
And the school, because the parents don't always seem to understand that their child will thrive, even if it doesn't seem like that to them.
They seem to think that they get an instant result. When they send their child to the school, they'll immediately become a genius in pursuing their interests. They don't seem to give it time. They expect that they go there and get an instant result. But you need to quite literally trust your child to do their own thing. You can't just send them there and then say, oh, you're completely free now. But if you don't immediately give me these results, A, B, and C, you won't be there. That's obviously ridiculous.
Yeah, and it seems really unfair that the parents don't give us a chance to let their child thrive and then they pull them out. And it's sad too, because the children, you can see they really love it there.
And some of the kids that have some behavior problems even get better. You can see them get better. And then they get pulled out because the parents, they were just, we'd have parents lie about us on Facebook because they were mad at us. They would say that we were watching decapitations, which is ridiculous. I don't think anyone watched a decapitation at our school, outside of school. But yeah, ridiculous.
I feel like I'm a student here, but could you just define what trust means to you? Because it means so many different things to everybody.
Yeah.
All
right. So I think trust. It means so many different things. Like I guess I'll give an example. When I go to school and I go to JC's, the Judicial Committee, which is like the court of the Sudbury School, I have to trust that they know the rules and that they're going to give a valid ruling regardless if I think it's right or not. I have to trust that my fellow peers in school meeting are going to be able to be able to take the motion seriously, propose the issues that are important, and vote responsibly. And most of all, I have to trust that the parents of the children are going to trust us and their children. That's the hardest one though, because it's not reciprocated at all. With most parents, at least.
Yeah.
They really have an offensive stance towards the school at all times.
Even most parents.
It's ridiculous.
I can relate to that.
Yes.
Do you think that that's possibly based in fear of, very similarly, right? Fear and trust kind of go.
Not possibly, definitely. It's definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
So their fear of maybe like they put a child in the Sudbury school, but then they're afraid that like they don't see that instantaneous result, or even over the course of a week or 2 weeks, that they're maybe doing not what they intended to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's definitely the fact, because parents, they always say, I want what's best for my child. And of course they do, obviously. But the problem is they see it as, there's always an urge to go back to the norm. They always see it as, there's this concept in psychology where it's better to do nothing than to actually do something and actually fail at doing that. Because if you do that, then you see it as, I did this and failed. If you just do nothing and fail, you see it as, oh, well, it's totally fine. Because but it's not really, because it's the same thing. The child is still, unfortunately, failed and has had a bad experience. And you just can't stand there and say, if I just do nothing, I can't blame myself. You cannot do that. Unfortunately, you can't do that. And we have the biggest problems, I think, we always say this, the reason they are the parents is exactly that reason. Because they don't trust the school, they want to see their kids instantly get better at anything that they want, whatever it is. They want to see their, I don't know, who knows, emotional stability get better, they want to see their reading get better, they want to see their, whatever. They just want to see that the instant gratification, they want to see that happen instantaneously. They want to see them instantly get better. I think, I don't know who said it, but someone said something about you have to give a kid around a year in a free school.
Oh, I think it was a month for every year they were in public school.
Yeah, a month for every year they were in public school to let them acclimate to the free school
And I
environment.
think it's really interesting too how sometimes the children don't even trust themselves.
There's a question on there about that.
Yeah, there is a
Children
question,
don't even
and
trust themselves.
and we'll get into that later when we get at that question. But it's so interesting because Brian, our staff member, little kids who go there and have been in club school their whole lives, on their first day they'll walk up and they'll ask Brian like, I do. And
That
they don't
happened to me the first time.
Yeah, they don't understand that.
I was
And
there the first day the school opened, which was around 4 years ago. The first day was the Sudbury School, which is where we go to. We were there the first day it opened, and I was thinking, okay, well, I need to talk to our staff member, Brian, and ask him, what do I need to do? What should I do? Like, is it, we don't need to do anything. Like, well, I understand that, I read about the school, but what should I do? What should I do? I understand I don't need to do anything. We don't need to do anything like, what should I do? He's like, whatever you want. It's like, that's not helping. But I realized that it was helping, because I realized that when you truly realize that your time, it took me about 2 weeks, but I truly realized that my time was my own, I could just do whatever I wanted, and the doing was the learning and the experience. And from that alone, nowadays, we'll get into casual debates about different, like our staff member Brian, he majored in economics in college, and we talk about economics a lot, we talk a lot about nutritional science, we get into debates about that a lot. And yeah, I mean, when you really trust yourself to start learning and stop putting so much pressure on yourself in a free school, you really just see how you can thrive.
All right, so Neil, you move on.
Yes, I think we should move on. So, yes?
I just have a quick question about your background. Have you both always been in a Sudbury situation?
No.
Were you
No.
public
Well,
school then?
I was-
What's your story?
Yeah, so I was first, when I was really young, I was homeschooled, and I was really, like, homeschooled as in sat down and we went through the books. It wasn't even that, it was actually pretty liberal for homeschooling too, but I hated it. I absolutely could not stand it. I did not want to sit down in one place and write in a book, and I could not stand it. It was the worst. And then my mom discovered unschooling, and it took a while, but we kind of were experimenting with it until she was like, okay, let's do unschooling. And I was unschooled for a very long time, and I really liked it. But I got to a point where I was kind of bored at home. I didn't know. I was like, I can do all this stuff, but what else? And then I found the Sudbury School. And actually, my mom was more skeptical of it than I was, because she was like, well, you have to get up every day at a certain time and go there. And I was like, I want to do it. And yeah, I've been
How old
there
were
ever
you?
since.
How old were you at that time?
I think I was
Three.
13 or something like, yeah, 13.
So, and for me, I went to public school up until 6th grade, and I remember it was April 13th. That's when I left. It was the beginning of spring break, and I left for spring break and never came back. I'm going to say, but I went there, and for a little bit after that, like my county did this thing called homebound tutoring. I don't know if other places do that, where I was still in public school, but they would just send tutors home. And I liked that for a little bit because it was so different from regular public school, and I could do it so much faster. It was only 2 hours a week in each subject, and it was very easy. So after that, I got bored of that eventually because it was just so much like public school. And then for a little while, I was homeschooled, because for a very long time, my dad wanted to homeschool me, but my mom had finally got because I have 2 brothers, they're both younger than me, and she was happy because she finally had the house to herself. Because she worked from home, they both worked from home, and she was just happy to have the office to herself for a few hours. And she didn't want to lose that after having so long, but my mom finally caved in because she saw how horrible I was. And so then I homeschooled myself, so I was unschooled, but I didn't really know what that was. I didn't really know what unschooling was. It took a long time to figure out what it was, but I was kind of doing unschooling, but also homeschooling. It was kind of odd. And then after that, I didn't really have too many friends, or they're my age. Oh yeah. Were you raising your
I
hand?
didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, sorry, no.
I was just gonna call you after you were there, yeah, because I saw you using it.
And so, I was just kind of getting bored with it because I was just home all the time, and I wanted to find some place where I could meet other people my age. So I was just, like, someone told me to look up alternative education, and I just found, like, Sudbury schools are the most interesting. It's like 7 schools, if you don't like homework, these are for you or something like that. And Sudbury is one of them, and my dad thought it was interesting. So basically, the joke, we just looked up South Jersey Sudbury School, and it popped up, like, oh, coming this year, South Jersey Sudbury School. And it was incredibly surprising because it was like, it was a complete joke. We did not think at all that there was going to be one. And so we went to one of the meetings, and we met Brian. And it was really
This is
interesting.
before school even opened.
Yeah, this was like way before. We just went to a library, and I started going after that.
And the first day school opened, Dylan and I were both there. I mean,
We're the last two.
We're the last 2 original students, but there were only 5 original students, so it's not that. Yeah, what were you saying?
Maybe I already answered a bit, but I was going to ask at the periods where you were homeschooling and homeschooling, if you at that point also knew other people that were unschooling and homeschooling, or
Well,
maybe not at that time, but
yeah.
you definitely met at some point.
Yeah.
Have you found that you were?
Well,
We went through Sudbury School.
We only met at the Sudbury School on the
Right,
first
first
day.
day.
I meant
But
once you were accepted.
I did know people. There are these unschooling co-ops and homeschooling co-ops that I would go to. So I did, and from that I did know people. But I don't know about Dylan.
Yeah, me and my parents, we only did limited research on trying to find co-op because I told them I was getting bored just being home all night, like being home all the time. But all the ones around us were like very religious, and it wasn't that I didn't want to be part of that. And so I couldn't find any. I mean, I'm sure that there were, but I didn't meet any people that were homeschooling.
There's also going to be a small Q&A session after
Yeah.
with the questions and stuff.
Hmm.
I mean, these questions. Yeah.
What does unschooling mean to you?
Homeschooling.
I
To me,
think
it means free.
I think it means everyone has their own version of it because it's completely self-directed. And I guess mine would be, someone might be playing Minecraft all day or someone might be doing research. I think it just is whatever.
I think it's to each
Child.
their own.
Yeah, to each their own. I think that's literally the.
Each their own.
Were you trying to? Yeah.
Yeah, you said several times earlier that parents expect instant results.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question, and please only answer it if you're comfortable
Mhm.
answering it, but I'm wondering what experience you had with that, what expectations you felt from your own parents, and how did that play out for you at South Jersey?
So my parents actually really, they didn't have that many expectations after me going there because they were very used to unschooling. It was more when I saw in other parents how they treated their children, how they treated us as the school. We've had parents walk in and do the most, we've had parents walk in and we have the judicial committee cases that we have. We have parents walk in and tear them up because their kids are involved. We have parents steal our cases. We've had parents yell at students because they were basically me. Yell at me because I wrote their child up. They'd yell at me, and they'd also take a JC case and say, "I thank you for writing him up, but I don't think he needs this lesson." I said, "That's for JC to decide." She said, "Oh no, that's okay." She shoved it down in the trash can. So, yeah, that kind of stuff. It's just.
Yes.
The resistance that you're talking about from parents, is that across the board? Do you see that with most of the parents, or what's the percentage?
I wouldn't say
buy-in?
everyone, but I would say most. I would
Maybe
say
like 60%.
60%. Yeah.
So they're attracted to the Sudbury model and concept, they know what it is.
They just don't
Bring
trust
their
it.
kids
Well,
there,
it's
they just
surprising.
can't.
It's surprising.
Yeah, they can't let
They
go.
don't understand. Like we had this one kid, Devlin, and he was there for about a year, maybe a little less than a year. And his mom seemed very chill, and she just would walk because our school's at a camp. We were,
After this
Really?
question, we should probably move into the.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and so she did not understand it at all. We were so surprised because one day she walks in and she asked Brian, "Oh, by the way, can you start tutoring Devlin?" Because he's had it mad. And we were like, "What? You don't understand that?" And we were like, "Well, we don't. That's not really what we do here." And
We're
she
going to
was
ask to
like,
be toured.
yeah, and she was like, "Oh, okay," and then she unenrolled him.
Yeah.
We were like, so surprised.
But anyways, we're gonna
Yeah, let's move on to the question.
move on to the pamphlets that you filled out. So we're gonna ask people how they answer the questions. So would anyone like to go first? Okay,
Do
awesome.
you know any more?
What?
We only
Oh.
expected like 15
We,
people, and we
got,
turned out
we
35.
only printed out 35. If you can share with someone, oh yeah, thank you, Jen, yeah. So we also, okay,
Oh, yes.
yeah. Do you wanna go first?
I guess so.
All right, so question one, I thought I would have one. So would you have trusted yourself as a child in a free school? That's question one. Can you just read off your answer?
Well, my answer is just, I would say yes, but actually I want to revisit that. So I'm going to get very personal and say, when I was a child, I was abused by my stepfather. So I was going through a lot of emotional entanglement with myself. And now that I think about it, I don't know if I would trust myself to be around other kids, my peers, because since I was sexualized at a very young age by force, then I'm thinking, you know, how would that play out with my peers who don't know that, who weren't abused when they were small? So I always go to worst case scenario, now that I'm starting a Sudbury school. If I have students who have had trauma in their lives, who might come from a background where they don't have a lot of examples, models of good adults, of functioning, respectful adults, then how that would play out with their peers.
So do you think that, so you said that you wouldn't necessarily trust yourself as a child because of that, right? Do you think you would have, but no, we've had children who I wouldn't necessarily trust at the school, but they still benefited from it because they learned things. Do you think you would have benefited from it at all, even though you wouldn't have trusted yourself around them?
I don't know, because I've never been in that model, I'm not sure, I don't know.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, all right.
Okay,
First question.
would I have trusted myself as a child at preschool? Well, it's not even really looking out and knowing myself. Probably not. Honestly, I can have some very bad ideas that really shouldn't. Just talk to Mark about that actually. I don't want to get into that, but anyways, I believe that if I was like another person in a Sudbury school talking to myself in a Sudbury school, I would not trust myself at all. Because if I was like a semi-normal kid, I'd be like, yeah, not creepy, I'm a weird karate guy who likes to do more shots in the hallway. No offense, Bob, but you know I do that, and then you yell at me. Well, not yell at me, you tell me not to do it, and then I keep doing stuff again, but whatever. Then that's the rule.
So you don't think you would have trusted yourself? I'm assuming you mean when you were younger, right?
When I'm younger and right now, I still do this stuff. I still listen to a lot of stuff.
Well, you go to Longview School. That would be a free school. So, I mean,
Do I trust
I
myself?
assume you trust yourself there to a certain extent.
I trust to an extent, but not as much as, I've never trusted myself in a school environment that much. I trust the teachers and I've trusted other students, but not for myself, because I always feel like I have a very thin line of anger, which if it gets broken, it's like completely no way I could ever come back to the situation, because I get so angry. If I do get angry, I think I'm not going to get along with that badly, because I like the system, but you get the idea.
So, well, she actually was.
What did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I think I would have said yes, but I had no idea that there was such thing as a kid. So I had very trustful parents. I was always treated like a human, but the school system didn't model that. So it was kind of weird. But no, I always was in trouble, and my parents never cared because we didn't believe in the system. We just didn't know there was another option. So I think more like advocates like you guys are doing right now.
I would add to that, I would say yes, and I actually sometimes look back and wonder what opportunities would have been afforded to me and where I would be now if I had that trust at a younger age.
I know that's so interesting because I just think about my life sometimes without Sudbury and free school.
I
can't even, I literally would have no friends. Like, or any of the friends I have now, I wouldn't even know them. And my biggest interests, I just wouldn't even know. And it'd be so curious. Like, I think about whether I would have discovered them, or what have I found? I would have found my closest friends, and it's so interesting to think like that sometimes.
So I think you should one more answer from the traditional one.
All right. I think you went first. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have definitely, even though I had insane parents, I would have trusted myself in a public school, in a Sudbury school, because the first thing I learned when the public school, like kindergarten, first grade, that I was a jerk and a puppet and an imbecile. So those were the things that I was taught in public school. And I would, sit there even when I was 5 years old and scratch my head and say, like, what is this? But I'm only a kid, what am I supposed to know?
That is very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should mount one of the second question on there. So you, in the back to the left, you're raising your hand, right? Do you want to answer the second question first?
Sure. I think trust is important always.
So the second question is, I have to look at this now because I forget it.
Where and when
Yeah, where and
trust
when is trust important in day-to-day living?
Yeah, always. You have to be able to trust other people, I think, and trust yourself to be able to function or go after anything you want to do or truly listen to people and learn from them, or just anything.
Yeah, and I always feel so bad for people that like that I meet and they just have no sense of how to trust someone. And maybe they've just been feared into it by just repeatedly being like destroyed. Because I know I've definitely had my fair share of people who I've really trusted and like backstabbed me. And I feel bad for people that can't get over things like that. And they just end up not trusting anyone ever.
Yeah.
I actually have a question about trust for you.
Okay.
So, I'm a parent of 5, and one of the challenges, or part of the challenge that I'm dealing with as a parent, is that my children are growing up in a completely different world than the one I grew up in. The access that they have to information, ideologies, pornography, and so on and so forth, wants me to be less trusty, not of my children, but rather of the access that my children have to all of this that never existed as a challenge for any parent throughout the humankind history. So my question to you as students, how much of trust should I have in the access that my children have today to all of the above?
So, I just want to, so before I get into that, I just want to say, because you were saying that humane race has never dealt like this kind of stuff before. And, well, I mean, if you actually look at history, we have seen this time and time again. When books first came out, there was an uproar against them because they were spreading all these new ideas and concepts and these new weird things and
Addictive.
yeah, they were addictive. And everything is addictive. And when the written word came out, and I'm not trying to compare because there obviously is bad stuff on the internet. We all can realize that. When you open a book, you don't risk getting your hands have a virus. Or, well, I don't know if the book's dirty, but so, not that kind of virus. Yeah, or like seeing something that you really don't want to see, or you don't want your children to see. However, we have dealt with this before. When the written word was first conceived of, there was a quote saying the written word makes our children stupid and lazy because they won't be able to memorize it. You can't memorize like we did, but we did. Because our parents and their parents memorized the passages because they knew how to actually use their brain. Of course, the written word's in everything. You're using the written word right now. But that being said, I think it comes down to there are obviously programs like I know there's something called Disney Circle. There are many different programs you can put on the computer that can help stop that. But then you ask yourself the question: will they want to look at these so-called forbidden parts of the internet more now? Instead of just, I mean, I don't know how old they are, but all I know is that just talking to people like a person, like, if you don't know what you're clicking on, you probably shouldn't be clicking it. I'm telling this because I care about you and I don't want you to see something that you really don't want to see because the internet can be a very scary place.
Yeah, and I know too, like from our experience at free schools, whenever a parent makes something a forbidden fruit, it instantly goes against them, and as soon as they get to some place where they're free and they understand that they're free,
they instantly try to
that.
look at all that.
Because they just see it as like, oh, I'm not gonna do that, but I'm gonna do that here, so I should do
Yeah,
that.
we had a kid who was who was so engrossed, and his parent didn't let him go on the tablet at home. So we got to school, what did you do the entire day? Tablet. So it comes to a certain point where I guess you just have to, you trust a lot, talk to your kids and trust them to understand it. I don't know how old they are, I don't know if they can comprehend, but, so I don't know if that answers your question. Does that help? Okay, thank you. I think she had her hand up for a
Yeah,
second.
I was just gonna say, do you guys find that that's something, a topic of conversation between you and your peers on things that, like maybe, like what he's saying, that parents and adults say are not really, that they're trying to get you to avoid, but you might then, with forbidden fruit, go the opposite way. Do you ever have that conversation where you're the ones kind of saying
Oh, definitely.
some of this? Because I think they would hear you more
As a
than they would
peer.
hear sometimes the parent or another adult.
Well-
And that's even more reason why the free school, where you can have these conversations, seems important to me. So
A lot of Sudbury school, or any free school, you have to draw the boundaries somewhere. We don't allow the kids at Sudbury school to go on the computer and look at absolutely whatever they want. If they do that, they're gonna get written up, and they're gonna go to JC, and JC's
And
gonna
I
say.
think what's great about the free school is that everyone I've visited is completely different because they have their own problems and their own issues. And some Sudbury schools might draw the boundary to different line, like they might draw the line in a different place.
And the best part is the kids draw the lines themselves. They literally learn to trust themselves and when to stop that.
Yeah.
I just want to share something, because I've been dealing with this for an entire lifetime. You know, there was a woman, her name was Alice Miller, who was the president of the International Child Psychiatry Association in the 50s and the 60s, and she wrote out those books, Trauma of the Gifted Child, For Your Own Good, The Poisonous Pedagogy, and she spent her whole life trying to figure out how did the insanity of World War II happen in the most highly educated country in the world, Germany. Answer, 2 generations of compulsory education. But the simple thing that she said, and this is a woman who was one of the top professional psychiatrists in the world, said, emotion attaches meaning to experience.
Yep.
Without an emotion, nothing you talk about, think about, or read is ever going to make any sense. And all this stuff about trust, you know, about children, it's like, unless the feeling, which in public school is hardly ever brought up, feeling doesn't exist. So to understand something in a simple human way, like, you know, it's like saying, what is inside your body that's connected to your heart? Oh, blood. What a surprise. That to bring up emotion, how do you feel? As soon as you do that, you cut everything off from the head and the looking at this and the looking at that. How do they treat emotions? You know, there's a big thing now in school, social, emotional intelligence. But how do they deal with emotions? Do they make it part that you can't really learn anything unless you attach an emotion to it? Did anybody ever say that to you?
Not really. I know the way emotions normally function in our school is, on average, they'll just be something like, they'll probably, like for example, in JC, we'll acknowledge the fact that, like for someone, because we have people crying in JC, obviously, people burst out crying from things, and we always say to them, we acknowledge that you're hurt, definitely. We definitely acknowledge the emotion, but we just say that, we just have to understand that. We also have to acknowledge the other person's view, whether or not they're crying. Some people try to get the JC in their way because they're crying, and it's like, oh, I'm really hurt. It's like that, well, just because the other person maybe can't cry, or is unable to cry, or doesn't feel the need to cry, we just have to, you know, and we just have to acknowledge everyone's point of view. And we try to make a note of emotions, but we also try to make it so that everyone gets their voice heard, regardless of how if they're bawling, if they're screaming, or if they're just talking normally. We're gonna try to get their voice heard. That's
All right, I
okay.
think you had a question?
If I can articulate it now. I was thinking about something, the theme here kind of being about trust versus, there was a theme about trust, and how you reconcile that with safety, be it personal physical safety or safety in terms of protection from exposure to something. I think there's something there about emotion, because I was going to say earlier that the unschooling answer to that, I unschooled my kid from like 1 year old up until we went to our Agile Learning Center in Oklahoma State. The answer to that is something about trusting your innate emotional response to exposure to material, exposure to people. And so maybe trust is not just like, I trust you innately, completely with my life and everything, but also trusting yourself in terms of your comfort level. And I've seen that with my son. I don't restrict what he's allowed to watch, but he will find that he's uncomfortable. And if I preserve his ability and I don't interfere, then he will steer himself naturally away from things that are scary or dangerous.
Yeah. It's all about self-direction, learn to trust your boundaries. That's what the Sudbury School is really all about. You're talking about safety. The safety rule was written by the students.
Right.
And because the students recognize the safety. A lot of people think that the kids are just go off the walls and be totally unsafe if there's no supervisor. But I mean, the kids wrote the safety rules.
Because you guys could watch decapitations at your school if you wanted to.
If we passed a rule saying that, like, taking away, I think there's probably a rule about, we do have rules about gore on TVs and stuff. If we took away that rule, we could watch decapitations all day long.
But you don't want to. Adults
Yeah.
don't have to tell you.
One, it's gross. Two, we know
We
it's.
didn't have to protect you.
Yeah, two, we know it's
Yeah.
horrible, it's gonna be horrible for the school.
You trusted your own.
Yeah, I think Sudbury itself is a perfect example of kids putting boundaries on themselves.
Right.
And not boundaries on the wall, because we agreed to all these rules, and I think that's what makes JC so interesting, is that kids. in
We'll
the
write the
public
rules
school-
and then break them. And
Yeah,
and then they have to realize that, I'm sorry, I broke that rule.
And it's so interesting because they're so used to public school, someone else making the rules, and it lets us, like, not go more at it on them, but it's like, you can change this. If you think this is unfair, saying this rule is unfair is not even close to good an excuse. It's not even an excuse because they can change it.
If it's unfair, go to the school meeting and change it, we say.
Yes.
Well, I think she had her.
Oh, yeah, you had your, sorry.
I just wanted to respond to your comment to the woman who's going to start a school. I'm first happy you're talking about something as big as trust. We have in California and many places trauma-informed teaching, professional developments, and I think there's a spectrum. It's not like when we've all experienced something that's broken our trust, and where it's a process of rebuilding in that area. But what's interesting to me is if you go to a school like yours, I think I would, just by opening up my trust in maybe academically, intellectually, that would help me in other areas of my life. So it's transferable, like neurons and trust. It's a fascinating thing. So I just wanted to point out the spectrum and give kudos to someone who wants to start a school that addresses trauma and all the complexities of it. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's such a big thing to start the school. We know Brian, who's our staff member and our founder, he had a hard time doing it too. He had a partner with him who, one night, he woke up one day, he was gone. He was gone. All of his stuff, all of his stuff, everything was gone. Never heard from him again. While he was trying to start the school, he just chickened out and bailed, and he never said a word to him. He woke up one day and all of his stuff was gone.
Wow.
But Brian still started the school, and we're still here. But yeah, so it's hard. It's really, and the amount of hurdles that we run through. I could go on for probably an hour and talk about just the things, experience we've had just parents alone. So it's definitely just. It's also hard to trust. People don't recognize that, we need to trust. It's hard to trust, especially after that happened to Brian. The amount of parents we see come to our school, I always say, oh, hi, how's it going? And then I'm thinking in my head, is this the parent that's gonna say that we watch decapitations after she goes home? So, yeah. But yeah, anyways, yeah.
Does your particular school try to address this issue in the form of regular community meetings with all the parents? Or like, how are you sort of tackling this? Because that must be a huge obstacle. You have more parents in the school than you have children, because a lot of kids have more than one parent. Like, how are you dealing with it, and do you need help with it?
Well, at other Sudbury schools, they have this thing called assembly, which we don't really have. An assembly is like a school meeting. I don't know if you're familiar with school meeting.
Yeah.
So it's like a school meeting, but the parents are involved too. And at a lot of schools that have had assemblies,
the assembly at some point is to take over the school.
Yeah, tried to take over the school and made it into a regular private school. And so we decided just to not have an assembly, and also, but assembly.
Well, we do have parent meetings. We do have parent meetings with the kids, and they can give out their grievances
with everyone, and they don't have any direct power, but they do they can give input to Brian, and Brian will bring it up to the next school meeting, saying this is what the parents' issues have.
And sometimes we'll just say we'll say in school meeting, the kids will say, well, we appreciate the parents' input, but that's not how the school meeting feels on this. We're not going to be able to acknowledge that.
Do you have contracts that you sign at the beginning of the year?
I think we do have a simple contract, like basic, like you can't sue us for this, this, and this. I guess very basic type of contract like that, and you acknowledge that this is a free school and you're gonna, to pay the tuition, which people don't follow sometimes. They just pull their kids out and don't pay tuition, but we can't afford a lawyer, so that's what happens.
You in the back.
Was your name Dylan or Neil? I forgot.
That's Dylan now.
Okay, Dylan. Where you were saying about assemblies, how the parents try and take over. So in starting this Sudbury School Miami, I've heard that several times from other schools warning us we recommend not having assemblies. So the Alpine Valley School, who has assemblies, so like we would have, if we could have done it over again, just gotten rid of assemblies. And their reasoning was the whole focus of the school is to be student-centered. And parents will want to take over slowly because they feel like what you're describing, that no, my child isn't doing what I want my child to do. That's not the point. The point is for the child to do what he or she wants to do.
I just sometimes when people ask questions, I just say, well, I'm sorry, I don't care what you want. I care what the child wants. I care what your kid wants because this is the school for them. Okay, so.
You and
she was first.
Oh, you're first. Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're first. Sorry.
When you talk about breaking rules, that it's not really, but like people, the students created the rules. You mentioned how, well, if they didn't like the rule, they could just change it. But how, like, do you guys have a particular voting system? And like, one student can't then just change the rule?
Well, yeah, I meant that as in so first of all, they have to write it on the school meeting board under the issues column. Then when school meeting happens, the speaker of school meeting, this is our school, all schools, Sudbury schools are different. The speaker will bring up the issue, say, whose issue is this? That person will get a chance to talk, everyone will talk about it. If the person makes a motion, I make a motion to make da-da-da-da-da rule or amend da-da-da-da or delete da-da-da-da, then they will act, then a motion will be made. The clerk who documents all the school meeting log will write down the motion, and then we'll document, it's simple majority then.
But I would like to say, since you said that not a single person can change the rule, I'd like to add on to that because the way we like to think about it is if your motion is good enough and it's smart enough, and you can make a good enough argument for it, then it's a high chance that it'll pass if you think that it's a good enough motion and a good enough new rule. Like one of the last rules we made is someone who's on our judicial committee, like if you write someone up, you can't be on the judicial committee because we think you might be biased. And a couple
Brian, our staff member, was actually arguing against that. He was saying that, well, I understand your position, but the fact of the matter is, I feel like there are certain rules that only I care about. I see you guys, and I don't think you care about these certain rules. And I just think that I should be on the JCs for these rules. So I just don't think, I don't think you guys care about it enough. And I said, Brian, if we didn't care about them, then we wouldn't be letting you stay on the JC to care about them for us, because we just wouldn't care. We just pass it. So if we're going to let you do that, then we'd already be caring about them. So then your point would be moot. So after a discussion, I was like, Brian, I respect you, still going on. I was like, Brian, I respect your opinion, but I'm making a motion and it passed 9-1. So.
How big is your school?
19 kids right now. You don't have to, it's not required to attend school meeting.
Yeah.
And so.
I think you.
Yeah. Oh, you are. Oh, sorry, you didn't. Yeah.
That's okay. I just want to circle back to this idea about the parents and the assembly idea. I second the idea having our school having been a Sudbury school for 9 years. We never had an assembly. I was always concerned about the involvement of parents and didn't trust that parents would empower their kids enough to give them a position of authority by being part of an assembly. That being said, the issue that was raised of if you have 60% of your parents who are hostile to what you're doing, it isn't necessarily a matter of empowering them. It seems like it may be a school meeting matter of figuring out how to better educate your parents, not empower them, but educate them so that they will support you more. So that might be an issue worth talking about at school meeting, so it doesn't destroy your school.
Yeah.
It doesn't like pull kids out. Because some parents come to your school, they send their kids to your school because it's been bad somewhere else.
Yes.
And so you tell them a lot about the school, and they're not paying that much attention. All they're hearing is not where I was before, it's not where I was before. And then they're there, and their kids are actually at the school, and they say, what? Wait, they can do what? They're totally enjoying. You didn't tell me that. And of course you say, of course we told you that. You signed things, you watched them, all these things, but now they're paying attention. Some percentage of those you'll lose.
Yeah.
But there is a percentage of those you'll turn around.
Yeah.
But you turn them around if you give them the opportunities for education.
A lot
and
of
that's part of
times-
Brian's job, I think, and
Yeah.
also part of
The way
your
we
job
normally do that
as
is
school meeting members.
during a parent meeting, we will try to stay there and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. And we'll try to, and when I say it's 60-40, I don't think the parents, I'm trying to say, I don't think the parents that are already there, that'd probably be actually 40-60 maybe. But when a parent, with the new kids, I'm always like, which one is it gonna be? Is it gonna be the parent trusts it, or the parent pulls them out within the first month, or the first year? So,
And I know like there's some people that instantly disregard the school, like they figure out what it really is and they're like, oh, this is crap. Or we've had this little girl, Julia, and she had never been in public school. She's only been in Sudbury school. This is her first year. Her mom like was talking to my dad because my dad is a big resource that Brian uses to send him because he's been a big advocate for our school and he really loves it. And she was like, wow, this is like heaven. And it's perfect. Because there's just, and it's like, things like that make up for all the dumb crap that other people say. Yeah, I think, or no, you were, sorry.
Yeah. Neil, when you were asked a question about defining trust, the example you came up with was judicial committee, and that you trust your peers to know the rules and know the procedures. So first year Sudbury School, where the students don't know how things work, and we're figuring out how things work, I wonder, how does it first start out, because you were there when it first opened, how does it first start out to train all of us on procedure and following rules and making rules and sticking to them? How does that process from zero to everything?
We kind of figured it out. We kind of trained each other. We kind of figured it. We had this idea of it, and we kind of just went from there. Like so, because even Brian, he researched Sudbury schools, and he had very popular in the Sudbury community, Jerry Quirk. He had
started a few Sudbury.
Yeah, she started a few Sudbury schools, and he was talking with her. But the thing was, is Brian still hadn't. He was teaching English in Japan. Brian was, and he was like, my students hate this. And he went to a Sudbury school in Japan. He's like, oh my God, they love this.
Because he noticed that all the kids that were genuinely interested in learning English did extremely better than the people that just were there just to be there. And their parents were making them go.
So then he had this idea, I want to start a Sudbury school in my hometown. So that's where his concept was actually Sudbury school. But we were all still trying to figure it out, like how we didn't have any veterans or whatever. Everyone was new to the concept, so we tried to build it up. We had this, so other Sudbury schools do this, we want to change that, and we're like, yes or no, or what if we just tweak it slightly? So
yeah, that's what's very interesting about ours specifically, is that no one had any experience at all. So we just made it up as we went, and it worked out pretty well. But yeah.
I just want to toss something out to you. One of the greatest contributors to the value of education, particularly early childhood education, was a guy named Shinichi Suzuki that created the Suzuki violin playing method, where kids start playing at 3 years old. One of the interesting things about Suzuki, a beautiful book, it's really called Nurtured by Love. I couldn't say enough about it. And Suzuki, believe it or not, was mentored by Albert Einstein from the ages of 17 to 20. So his ideas took off, but he told the parents education was his world. He told parents, you are the greatest teachers your child would ever have. Because when you take this is the violin playing, who takes the first lesson? The mother. Because the child always copies what mommy or daddy is doing. So if a parent is known in your school and say, nobody is the best teacher, bigger influence on your own than you on your own children. Because they copy and every single thing that you do. And how could you argue with that? Because that's human nature. We learn to talk 1,500 words by the time we're 3. Anyway, when you hear that, to give parents some acknowledgement that they're unique and special, and nobody can do a teaching job like they can for their own children, to get them engaged emotionally and involved. If you heard that, or could you imagine that happening at your school?
Well, do you imagine it being said or imagine it being actually integrated?
No, said.
Okay, so I would say, I think we just have so many, I guess, negative experiences with parents. We try to, because we acknowledge because obviously the reason they're here is because of the parents, right?
Not really.
But they had to
They're there on account of the parents brought this to their attention. The kid didn't walk down the street and say, oh, we're Sudbury School, I can't wait to get in there. The kids found it first?
I found it.
Really? Well, you're a little older. You're not a 5-year-old.
So what I was saying, yeah, the parents, obviously the parents play an important role because the parents, a lot of times, not all the time, find the school. They're the ones that find the school and they say, I want this for my child.
Yeah.
But we try to, since parents are already so involved in the child's life, and we're not trying to deny that. We're just saying that this school is where we try to. It's not. I don't want to say separation, but I want to say you can be your own person.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you learn what you want. You compare the acts of your parents, your peers, and what you want to do. And I think that's what's really awesome about it, because in the end, you're not going to be, while your parents are extremely important, you're not going to be surrounded by them in the end. You're going to be surrounded by your peers in life, in day-to-day life. So figuring out how they think and what kind of person you want to be through the actions of your parents and your peers and yourself in the school. I think that's really how you develop.
So that's made a big impression on the two of you?
Sudbury?
No, the fact that you're going to be among your peers.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, like definitely, because, I mean, we definitely pick up so much from our peers, and it's so great. Like, I've heard so many people say that it's the death of people riding their bikes to each other's house at this conference. It's kind of frustrating, and I know it's true for a lot of people, but like that's what we do on weekends, is that we all get together, everyone from the school will get together, like very spontaneously, and it's very like Sudbury-ish, is how I like to say it. Like, we'll just randomly call on each other and they'll say, oh, we're here, come here, and then at the end of the day we have like 10 people over, and it's happened in an hour, and we're all cooking dinner.
We had a thing called Super Spice Club, where we actually we came over and we ate Carolina Reapers. And that was the worst pain I've ever experienced. It was fun, and we all got together. Dylan chickened out, he didn't do it. He had the ghost pepper, but he chickened out at the Carolina Reaper.
Yeah, because I'm not an idiot.
I would do it again. But, all right, so you want to go back to the questionnaire for a second, and so you want to do question 2 again, so we move on to question 3, because I think, so let's do one more question 2. So does anyone want to, yeah?
I wanted to answer number 3, if that's okay.
Okay.
The third question is, would you trust a child prone to violence or with behavioral issues at a preschool? And mine was absolutely yes. My husband and I have been working at the Village Preschool in Portland, Oregon, and we're going to start our own in the next couple of years. And it has been unbelievable to watch progress of kids coming into the school who, by any other metric, would be like the lost cause kid sent to go get on meds and just be called crazy and insane and scary. And I mean, one of the meetings at the end of the year, there was a kid who parents wanted to enroll him, and the parents were separated. The father and his new wife were desperate to find a new school for him and brought him in and said, hey, he's this great kid, he just, some behavioral issues. The mother then sends us an email saying, here's what he's not telling you, and sends us this super long email, all the schools he's been kicked out of, all of his anger issues, all of this like really violent behavior, picking up knives, like anything that would scare anyone. And in the staff meeting, these wonderful, wonderful women who've been running the school for 14 years, they see this email, okay, did everyone read the email to the staff meeting? Like, does anyone have a problem? No. My only issue is that the dad wasn't honest with us. Let's have a meeting with him. And I was like, and exactly that. The kid spent the last 2 weeks in school with us, not a single behavioral issue. He's finally able to just be himself and not be locked behind a desk. And he has friends. He was in the wood shop making a sword out of wood, playing safely with it. You know, I mean, going to cooking classes, learning the safe use of knives. I mean, it was, I saw behavioral changes throughout this last year where we've been there. In kids at the beginning of the year, I was like, nope, I can't stand another week with this kid. Like, no chance. By the end of the year, calmer, safer, real friendships, real relationships, trusting. I mean, I've never even really, I think it's almost your ideal kid is the one that a lot of people have mentioned, like, fit nowhere else, right? And like, because of free school, you can truly be yourself. And especially if you have a diverse group of kids in the school, kids who would do really well in a conventional school, or would do really well in a super strict school, and would do really well, like each preschool sort of needs to have that diversity built in order to be able to help each other. But anyway, I just wanted to share that story because I'm so proud and happy and excited about all of it.
I think the best way to, I guess, respond to that would be to just give my answer to the question. My answer to the question would also be yes, unless it's incredibly toxic to the community. What I mean by that is them actually acting out and being loud. We've had experience with that, personal experience with that. So, what I mean by that is, so Sudbury staff seem to be divided on this issue, I think. So, Brian Page, who's no longer at the school, but we still know her and everything, but she was at the school then. Brian Page and all of us, we were like, all right, so Brian Page was staff, by the way. We were like, okay, what do we do about this one kid?
I would say he was being violent almost every day.
So,
Right. And there's instances where it doesn't.
but this was our first incident of a kid. Like we've had kids with emotional issues before, but we've always said like they've been in JC, bawling and screaming like, we gotta calm down. We're just gonna try to. And then by the time he left, he learned to control his emotions so well. It was insanity. He learned he was. That sounds wrong. That sounds wrong. He learned to control his emotions, so it was sanity. But he was so in control of everything he said. He didn't get angry or overworked. It was completely fine. And he really learned to control his emotions. And there was his brother. What he would do is I think he had also emotional anxiety, like public speaking anxiety. He just didn't like being around people. He just walk around and he hated it because in public school, he's a smart kid. He wanted to be an animator. And he would work on his animation program and we're like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm doing this and this and this. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And the thing is, but in public school, they'd put him in a special ed class with kids with like overly debilitating disabilities, and he'd think, am I just an idiot? Like he'd think that he was stupid because he thought that he thought that they were treating him like he was a moron. He thought that the teachers were talking down to him so much, and even more so in this class, and he thought that they were just talking down to him so much. He was like, my God, he started to think he wasn't stupid. But so the first, I think, year he was at the school, or not the year, because they were there like full school year or something. The first like few months they were there, all he did was he'd walk outside and he'd drag a stick back and forth in the dirt, and that was all he'd do. And you know what we did? Nothing, because that's what he wanted to do. By the time he left, because they moved, they didn't like quit the school. They loved it, but they moved. By the time he left, he was the speaker of school meeting. However, there's the other side of the spectrum with this one kid we had. He would be like, I'm going to crush your skull, and he violent threats against everyone.
I mean, luckily he was 8.
Luckily he was 8. He would grab things. He would try to steal from the school. He would violently attack people. He would punch people. He'd hit people. He'd kick people. He'd threaten people. He'd steal. He'd lie, and it was just horrible. And by the end, this was a visiting week. This was his visiting week. He was visiting, and we were like, but we still let him into the school. No, I don't think we should have done that, to be honest. Because look, in retrospect, because while we are a school for everyone, not everyone, but we're a school, we try to be a school for as many people as we can, for the outliers who don't fit into regular school, or anyone, maybe someone who does. But the thing is if you're trying to be toxic to the community, and while it's like that, we aren't a school we're a school. We're not a school for people who cannot control themselves to an extent. When I'm saying extent, I mean we use that term very loosely. Because because we still let him into school, but he kept being violent over and over. So eventually, he was suspended, and he was given an indefinite suspension unless he signed a contract saying, if I break any one of these rules again, violence, stuff like that, then I will be instantly expelled if JC finds me guilty. He never signed the contract and never came back.
I would say I was really proud of the school too that we could come up with a solution like that, coming with the contract, because that was our idea that we wanted to have, and I don't even think one of the staff members wrote it. I'm not sure.
I don't know who wrote it.
But I think that's what's so ingenious about Sudbury, is that every single problem, I like to say sometimes, if we're in JC and people aren't following the rule to the T, it's like, we're a common sense school, we don't have to follow things to the
What's the spirit of the rule?
Yeah, the spirit of the rule, we say that a lot. Because what would you have to say?
Did you want to answer the question?
Yeah, I did. You guys can finish though.
No, but I think we were done, right?
Yeah, we're done.
Oh, sorry.
So can you just read out Rule 3 so everyone can hear it, and then?
Yeah. I would actually say you should always let a student join Sudbury school for the simple reason of if they, even for, like, not for like if what you guys said about trial week, maybe not, but like.
We do.
Like what I'm saying is like, it's so important for them to be able to integrate into the school well. And you don't know how they're gonna act in the school system and setting, like a normal school. And truthfully, this is going to be been expelled from 5 schools. That's my issue.
So you think a trial week should always happen?
I think at least a trial week should always happen.
I agree.
Most likely more because they need time to adjust into the school and that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if they murdered somebody, maybe not a trial week, but.
Maybe not.
Maybe not that, but.
That's the least issue though.
Yeah, but other than that, I think a trial week should almost always happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Trial weeks, I mean, because trial weeks, it's literally a trial week. There's no really hard. If it really is so horrible, we can stop it at the second, day number 2. But that's probably gonna never happen.
Yeah, I know.
You try to.
We do 5-week trials at Village Free School.
5 week? Wow.
5 week, yeah. So you sign a conditional contract of 5 weeks, and it's a chance also for the parents to really know what the school is, and then you sort of have a chance to weed out those parents who, after a couple weeks or a month, would be like, oh, they're not learning math, they're not learning
We learned
physics,
that. We
whatever.
learned that the hard way.
But 5 weeks is a really interesting time because it's not so long that you feel the impact of this really burdensome family or child who aren't going to be a good fit, but it's long enough that they really get to know what it's. I mean, if anyone spent 5 weeks in a foreign country, you're like, I live there. You're like, 5 weeks. But it feels like you really live there, and I just wanted to share that because I felt that was just like a wonderful time period. And then after the 5 weeks, they have a parent conference with the student and the parents, and they say, is this a good fit for us and for you? And then they sign a contract for the end of the year.
We had an experience where, kind of the opposite, we used to do trial days, but they come for a day. Worst mistake we ever made.
Yeah.
Because the parents wouldn't understand school, students wouldn't understand school. That's where we got the decapitation comment, basically.
Right.
And so, there's so many, so the trial weeks, no one gets to understand the school. All they get is the most raw concept of it, and that's it. So, it's really the worst case scenario to have to do a 1 day. So that's why we totally stopped that, the 1 day trial. Were you raising your hand? I thought I saw you. Oh, you were just doing, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so does anyone else want to answer that question? Then I think we can move on to the next question.
Are we still on number 3?
We're still on number 3. Okay.
Yeah, so I put that like with time, I don't know that I would be able to 100% just be like, yes, I trust you with everything.
Yeah.
Initially, but I would say that of any interaction with any person, I don't know that trust is something like, trust is something that I feel like needs to be built, and I don't think that it's something that I can give away immediately.
Yeah.
But I would love to think that like, if I got to know that person as a person, that would change.
I think that's what we're trying to do the trial week for.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a feel of it and say, well, as long as you're not bursting out violently and hurting other students, we are not going to have that much of a problem. Even if you have, yeah.
Just going back to question number 3.
Yeah.
Like again, social and emotional learning is starting to finally be recognized in all kinds of schools. So one of the simplest things is like, why is somebody acting out, yelling, screaming? Because in the human way, you're trying to get attention and to be seen and noticed. So does that ever come up, the reason why this child or anybody is doing it, even these people that tragically shoot in schools, it's all about fundamentally trying to be seen and heard and get those needs met.
Yeah, we
Did you ever say, to any of these children, does it really mean a lot to you to be seen and heard? Is that what you really value and would like to have? Because, anybody ever do that?
Definitely done that at least one time. Our school hasn't been around that long. We haven't had that many scenarios where that has come up, where kids have been acting out that much to where we think that it's just because they're lacking attention. But we did have one kid his name was Jake, but we called him Gremlin.
Gremlin?
Gremlin. So
that was his nickname.
That was his nickname. But everyone, because there was 2 Jakes, so he was Gremlin, there's Jake.
There's Jake and the Jake. There's Jake Gremlin, Jake not Gremlin.
But he would definitely, you could definitely tell, and knowing his parents, they were very nice, but you could tell that he just wasn't getting the attention he needed. And they definitely cared for him, I'm not saying they didn't care for him, but they weren't looking at what he wanted.
I think it was very interesting how whenever he would come, he would be totally fine. By the end of the school year, he'd have calmed down a lot. Then when he came back the next year, it's like all the things that I don't want to say, that all the things that were left had come back in full force.
But we definitely, once we realized that, we never specifically told him, we never asked if that's what he needed.
I think we try to give the attention to, let's give the attention to the screaming and more to the coherent conversations, and they learn themselves, I think, a lot.
So why don't you ask him if he's feeling that way? I mean, everybody says that.
I don't know, there never was a moment where it came up. It was just a natural conversation you started to have with someone. And
then we'll say, I think this is something, you can't be yelling, you have to talk. I mean, if you want us to listen, you're gonna have to, and then you start talking like completely, like not screaming or anything, just talking. And I think that, so you want to move on to question number 4 now?
After the trust question, can you say a little bit about what your own interests, pursuing your own interests at the school?
At Sudbury School? Yeah. So you want to go first or
about trust?
But no, about pursuing our own interests at the school.
Oh yeah, so the thing I spend the most time doing by far is playing this card game called Magic the Gathering. And I play that constantly. I've probably played easily 1,500 hours of that. Actually, I missed this week because it's a great thing. You can go and play with other people. And it's great too because none of them are my age. And it's very fun to beat them. But I spent a lot of my time just playing Magic. And it's so great because I got to meet the guy who's considered the best Magic player of all time. And I was telling him about our school and he was like, so you just play Magic all day? And he's like, it's awesome. And so that's really what I try and pursue. And I also like to pursue economics. I'm really just in economics, politics.
Economics is pretty awesome.
And me and Neil talk about that a lot. And Brian, our staff member.
He majored in economics, I mentioned that earlier. So we all three of us talk about economics and politics a lot.
And also we're just very invested in the school because we really care about it. And we all feel very passionately about it.
We all talk about the school a lot and the future of it.
And we don't even, a lot of times we do not agree on what our vision of the school is, and we don't. The same thing with, he did not agree with us about if he's allowed to be on JC if he lets someone up. And it's great that we can have an honest discussion with each other of why we have that opinion, why he has his opinion.
And we understood his opinion, but in the end, we voted him out and we were like, we're gonna do this because it makes sense.
And yeah, I think those are my interests, Magic and economics. And, I mean, Magic is also a lot of math. I don't think of myself as liking math. I don't really like math, but I like playing Magic.
I've always been interested in nutritional science. Not always. I've been interested in nutritional science, and I like to pursue that a lot. And I talk a lot. Brian and I, and to Dylan to a lesser extent though, but we will all three of us get into debates about it. Long debates. We will text each other studies, especially Brian and I. We'll send back and forth studies, and we'll try to debunk each other's studies. Yeah. Unfortunately for him, I always win. But yeah, totally unbiased.
I would like to say that Brian also, he likes to play Magic very much, and we get into very heated debates on
oh yeah, you guys get into it so bad.
Whether a card is good or not, or he thinks I cheat.
So
all right,
Yeah, just building off what you were saying, Neil, with science and nutrition. At a Sudbury school, so are you learning the information, I was listening to your questions last night, you obviously are very knowledgeable about this. Are you learning that because you're using the internet as a resource? Are you learning this information because you asked for an external source to come in and teach you? What's your method for actually having learned this information?
Probably, it was at first, probably definitely the internet, because there's a website, PubMed, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's basically the government website, they post studies. And that's the best place to do. Now, things about PubMed, you can't go in there and say, everything I'm going to read is reliable, because that's not how it is. PubMed just posts studies. You have to actually think critically when you read it and understand how you can screw up studies. Very easy to do, by the way. Very easy to screw up studies.
All right, I do think we should move on to question 4.
Okay, yeah. A lot of it though has been from debating with Brian and seeing his point of view and learning how to debunk it. Yeah. So, all right. So, question 4.
Who wants to read question 4?
Yeah. So we'll read question 4 and then answer it. Okay.
Would you trust your child to learn in a preschool?
Yeah. But this doesn't mean that you have to have a child. Just so everyone knows, this is if you had a child, would you trust them at a preschool? Or so? Does anyone want to answer that? Yeah.
I would trust my child. I think if I didn't trust my child, it would be my own perception of what they need to learn, what the process needs to look like, and it would be my own issue. Just me not trusting what needs to happen for my child and that they can navigate themselves if they got the right kind of support.
You got the exact kind of opinion that I like, because people don't seem to understand that it's not just all about the parents, it's about the kid. They don't seem to understand. They go, well, I feel, and I have to say, I'm sorry, I don't care what you feel. I mean, I do to an extent, but it's like, I understand it because the parents are the most influential thing in that kid's life, hands down. However, you also have to, you can be a good influence by not being an influence to an extent. It's hard to explain, but you can be an influence by not being an influence. By saying, I trust you to go with your peers and understand this.
I know that from my own experience, everything that has been productive for me and I've learned from are the things where I went against what people told me I should do and going with my own instincts of what I wanted to do, and it's led me to where I am. I had no dreams of being where I am now, but I'm really happy with where I'm at now because I went through what I needed to and I honored what I felt I needed for myself.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyone else want to answer that question? Yeah, sorry, Nat, you had a brother.
Yeah, well, I think yes is my answer, but it also depends on how my child would like to learn. And it'd be, again, to add to what you said, to be asking my child, like, what do you like and what methods do you prefer, and like really understanding what his or her needs are before, you know, like kind of putting her into any school, really.
So you would have, so I almost seem like, that seems like the best yes answer you can give almost, because it's like, yes, but they have to actually really want it. It's like, that's the best answer because you're literally trusting them to the extent of you make the decision where you want to go. Awesome, yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
I guess I have a question in terms of trusting your child to learn. I know that learning happens when you're interested and you are able to do it experientially. Now I'm thinking like, okay, they go through Sudbury School, college, right? College for me wasn't a huge experience other than time management and how I'm going to go out the night before and wake up for class the next day. But grad school, because I had gone out and had some experience and knew what I liked to do, grad school was a much better experience for me. Do you see like Sudbury going into kind of the college realm, or like what happens after Sudbury School in terms of learning and continuing on this path? I'm just interested in
that's a great question.
I think both of us can answer that separately. I know for myself, for a very, very, very long time, I just totally disregarded college because I was still in the mindset, like, I was still trying to figure out Sudbury after being so, like, ingrained in my head, public school. I still have to figure out that, like, and after I left public school, I hated it, and I was like, oh, F this, like, I am not going to listen to anything they say, and I'm not going to college.
Yeah, screw the system, basically.
Screw the system. And then after thinking for a while, I was like, you know, I do have these interests that I want to go to college for. Like, I kind of want to be a nurse now, and that's my idea now. For a long time, it's just gone back and forth. And right now, my biggest goal is I want to be like a self-sustaining farmer in the middle of nowhere. That's like my ultimate.
He's always been talking about that. That's like you want to be a nurse, but like your ultimate goal is to
get there. I have to be a nurse.
He wants to be completely off the grid. That's his like dream.
That's great. You know that.
Okay. So first, I want to say like Sudbury students in general. So I don't know who attended the awesome mini talk done by, I forget her name, but that woman who is doing a study right now on Sudbury schools, Gina?
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. I cannot wait for that to come out. She said the study on unschoolers has already been done. It was alongside Peter Gray too, and but the Sudbury study is going on right now, she said, and just wait around a year. So, however, there are also statistics saying a lot of Sudbury students become entrepreneurs. A lot of them become entrepreneurs. Because obviously you're free thinking and you have days upon, months upon, years upon years, just think about what do I want to do? And so a lot of times also, and colleges recently have been wanting to get free school students into colleges, into their doors, because it's such a new innovative thing. Colleges don't want to be a year behind.
Yeah, I know when in the summer we like to go cliff jumping in Vermont, and it was completely random, and my mom we were going to school, and she's always been a little bit on the edge about free schooling, and because she's been very like traditionally schooled, and it was so completely random. There was this woman at the place where we were cliff jumping, and she was like a professor at the University of Vermont or something in education, and she changed my mom's mind about free schooling, and like my mom didn't understand how someone could get into college if they were free schooled or go to, or unschooled, and she really changed my mom's mind about it, but it was completely random. But I think you had a question?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say something. What I feel like so I went through public school, and what you do after public school is you go to college. That's what you do, or that's at least what's being set out for you. I went to college thinking I could be a teacher. I think I kind of like English, so I'm gonna do that. But I did it because I didn't really know who I was, what my passion was, because I didn't have the time in school to find that. So when I'm listening to you guys, I feel like there are two people in front of me who already have developed a great passion about certain areas. So you guys are going to go into college with the mindset of, oh my God, I'm going to learn so much about this because I love it. And I had that chance after college, and I'm like, okay, teaching, right? And then I did my graduate, and that's what you just said. Oh, now I know what I want to do. You have the time actually to figure that out in school right now.
That's what I really like.
I would love to say that, like the first day I learned about Sudbury School, I went and I watched all the videos I could on it, and watched documentaries, and I was like, pissed at myself that I didn't figure this out earlier.
I had that moment too.
And I was like, I stayed up till like 12 o'clock at night, like for 4 hours, just watching these videos. And I remember listening to this one kid, and he was graduating, and he was talking about that he was going to college, and I love that he said that, like, learning is in the eye of the beholder. And like, that he, even though he's never been to a traditional school, that he thinks that he can learn because he knows what he wants to do. And I feel like it's such a waste that kids are going to college and spending upwards like $40,000 a year, or even more, to figure out what they want to do with their life. And I think that's just such a waste.
I'm like, you should have that figured out.
Even though I feel like just take a break, like between when you're 18 and 19, take a break and figure out what you want to do before you start paying incredible amounts of money and not knowing what you want to do and just showing around. And that's what my dad did. He basically just got a call and said he had to pick a major. Like, either you pick it now or you
pick your career for the rest of your life. Pick who you are, basically. And it's like, you should probably have that figured out before you start paying copious amounts of money. Like, I have a pretty good idea. I want to go to college because I want to be a registered dietitian, I think, right now. And I kind of want to have I either want to do write my own study designs and make studies, or I want to also, or in addition, that'd be cool, also have my own practice, because I want to literally get on the front lines and help people with debilitating diseases.
Just on that, the two fathers of psychology, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, and were asked, how did you know what you wanted to do when you were a kid to become a psychologist? The two of them said the same simple thing. Remember what you loved to do as a child, start doing it again as an adult.
That's cool.
That's one thing. The other thing, I'm very interested in having students and children have a voice and being heard. And, particularly, again, the tragedy, in Florida, but those 16 and 17-year-olds did more about gun control in 3 months than politicians did in 35 years. So when you see something like that, and particularly there's a program called 22 by 20. By 2020, 22 million students will be reaching the age of 18 and will be voters, 22 million voters in 2020. So when you hear that, a little encouragement, is there, any talk about, when you see what these students have done from Florida, to realize that you have a voice and people will actually start to listen to you? Particularly with the availability of social media and YouTube.
I think that's so interesting that kids are like, we're lucky enough to understand that before any of that happened, that we have a voice and that we can change things, just through going to Sudbury, that we can change things directly. And I think it's really awesome that younger kids, or I shouldn't say young kids, but kids that are in public school now understand that they have a voice and that they can actually change things. And especially because, people I play like card game with, a lot of them are teens, and it's interesting to hear their point of view on a lot of that stuff. And I think it's really cool that they do have a point of view.
Yeah.
If anyone would mind, move on to question 5. I had a comment about.
Yeah, I was about to say,
But I know that you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I was just, it's been really interesting to hear everyone's
comments. I was homeschooled my whole life, and I didn't know until last year coming here and hearing some terms that I guess I was unschooled the whole time. I don't know.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was, but
Yeah, I figured that out too.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess so.
yeah, I guess that's what my mom was doing all that time. Pretty sweet. I was enrolled in dance programs at colleges when I was, 9, 10, 11, 12, and opened a studio when I was 12. Owned the studio for 8 years and then sold it, and all of that was during the years like where you guys are now.
That's really
And I didn't think that was anything special. I still don't. I'm not saying that to say that I'm special, but I think
You're
that
pretty
well,
Everyone's special.
Everyone's special, and everyone had it. But my point really is having that background. I now have 4 children of my own, and I homeschool them. And I want to open a school. It's very interesting that I still struggle with trusting them, even considering all of that I just told you.
That is very interesting.
I find myself really nervous about having a school and knowing that if I sometimes don't trust my own kids, what are those other parents who haven't had my background going to be facing?
Yeah.
If even I still am like, did you do math today? Like, stupid stuff like that, that I'm still fighting because of the systematic and systemic work that has been done all of our lives, even for somebody like me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where that comment is going or why I'm saying it, but it's just been really, your description of the workshop was really appealing to me. The questionnaire is really appealing to me because that actually at the end of the day is the biggest component and struggle and hurdle for me of wanting to open a school, because the trust issue is the first question, but the answer is to what? To learn or to become the person that they should become. Do we trust them to learn their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s? Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But the bigger issues is, do we trust them to become who they're supposed to become?
That's what I really like. That's what I really, it's like trust. I mean, honestly, it's all about because people always say, I want my child to be successful. But I feel like rarely is that the definition, I want my child to be what they want to be.
I think he wanted to move on. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to move on to question number 5?
That's all right.
Yeah.
We don't have much time left, yeah. So we got question number 5 and then.
Yeah, the question is what got you to believe in free schools, and if you don't, what fears are holding you back? So obviously I believe in free schools because I'm opening one, but I still have the fear of exposure to things. So it seems like what you mentioned, your interests come from your peers, like being exposed to different things because of your peers, your parents, just like the environment around you. So if your environment is limited, then I'm concerned that you won't be exposed to things that you might have been interested in if someone had just mentioned it or you had gone someplace and learned about it. So my fear is in exposure, and I had placed this question in another workshop, like I as a staff member or teacher, is my responsibility in exposing you to as much as possible so you can see where your interest lies?
I would say that we've actually gotten that a few times from parents, and I think that as a staff member, your job is to expose it, but not to tell them what to do. Like, I know Brian for sure, he will like, oh Dylan, come look at this, because I think this is really
Hey guys,
interesting.
over here, this is
but
so
genuinely interested. Like he's not trying to say like, oh, you should be interested in this, that, these are the reasons why. And I think like a lot of parents, there was a big issue we had for a while, not that big, but it was like them saying, how do I know my kids are going to be exposed to something? Like one parent was like, oh, I know sign language and I only saw that because of public school and now my kid and I love doing sign language. But my retort to that is always, that's an impossible question, because like there's something that you might be really interested in that you have no idea even exists because you don't know it exists. So I think it's an impossible thing to answer. Like I don't know something, but there's something out there that I would like, how are you supposed to know that? You don't even, if there's something you really like to do, how are you supposed to know that you want to do it? I think in public school, even more, because they have a whole plan of what you're supposed to know. And then you just expect that to be everything. Like public school is everything. And it's even more constricting, at least in free schools, you have the chance to look at every single option.
And I think that
all your interests.
if you want to expose a child to something, I think a general rule of thumb is, A, you have to actually be interested, not at least semi-interested. Like if it's something like, oh, I hate math, but I think this child's going, hey Billy, why don't you come over here? Math is so fun, it's great. They're gonna immediately see that you're BSing them. You're just being totally fake. So you have to, if you actually, because Brian's actually interested in politics, actually interested in economics, so he will say, oh guys, come over here, look at this. And the other thing is, if they don't want to, obviously that's no choice. That's the whole point of free school. And other than those two general things, there's like no problem with, I don't think there's any problem, because you can't expose a child to too many good ideas, really. I mean, they'll always be able to sort out what they really want to do. So if you say, well, I heard that you're interested in this, what about this? And if they say, I looked at that, I don't really care, like, okay. I mean, you just have to, respect their right to not want to do it, but at the same time, don't be afraid to expose it to them. And I think you had your hand up first.
Just a quick comment on that, because you're two econ nerds, which I love. And one way that I've helped convince my extremely authoritarian, pro-coercive education siblings and the way that they're rearing their children, and they're all super anxious, is to talk about opportunity costs. And I feel like this is something that we should all be talking about. Opportunity costs. I mean, it's like they're saying, well, if they never took that class on sign language or Latin, then they wouldn't have learned Latin. First of all, you don't know that. Second of all, during 4 months of a subject that they were not interested in, what could they have been, what are the opportunity costs for those 4 months? Like, we need to be thinking of it like an econ problem. Treat it like a business, And anyway, I found that to be so helpful.
What if you could gain something much better than that?
Right.
If they're gonna be, obviously you have to be exposed to something at some point to learn about it, but just being exposed to something. Because there's between, people don't understand this, but there's a big difference between someone going, oh, you should be exposed to this, look at how cool this is, or just saying, we're gonna sit down for months and talk about it. That's not exposing, that's shoving all the information down.
Versus most of it is retained anyway.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's so interesting to me because I don't think I ever would have found Magic the Gathering. And it's like so incredibly important to me, and it's incredibly frustrating that there's a chance I never would have even found it. Yeah, I think we'll just, sorry, we need to get the finish.
I would say a quick comment, because I think that the trust is really about dispelling fear. And before I left, my mother-in-law, who's an educator, said to me, I know a family that went to Somerville. The kid didn't learn to read till he was 15, and he's a brain surgeon.
Wow.
No, it was a wow moment for me, and just hearing the comments in here, I feel like that was major. I was like, you just would never think.
But I would say that just to wrap up, I think everyone has to leave soon. Just thank you for coming, and I hope it wasn't too bad. We basically
ask us a few questions, or you can even talk to us during lunch. We're gonna be here, so. Hi, Tony.